Are you sick of paying excessive rent? Want to travel? Do you work remotely? Are you retired? Do you want to pay $25 a month rent for more than half the year? If you said yes to any of those, be warned, this video might ignite your wanderlust. And if you're wondering, yes, I did try and make that sound like a travel brochure from the 1970s. With the increased popularity of remote working, van life has become a thing. Throughout history, if you were living in a van down by the river, you were down on your luck, life took a bad turn, and you can't afford a studio apartment above a strip club called Dirty Joe's. That was the old days. Over the last 2 years, I've been researching this for myself. I kind of want to do it, not a full-time thing, but for weeks at a time while I travel around the country. If you haven't heard about this life or this movement and don't really know how popular it is, let me explain. There have been around 15 million posts about van life on Instagram just in the last few years, and hundreds of van life channels have sprung up all around YouTube. This is now a legit lifestyle, and many retirees and remote workers are choosing this life. They aren't just living in 1970 Ford Econoline vans either. Class B motorhomes, Sprinter vans, and really nice converted buses seem to be the most popular ways to live on the road, like Jack Kerouac in 2023. Today we're looking at the states that I've learned to be the best states to live the van life and why. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Texas. Texas has a lot going for it when it comes to the van life. One, it's got a lot of open space, there's plenty of places to camp, park, and fuel in Texas tends to be a little bit lower than the national average. Weather also plays a big part in Texas' popularity when it comes to camping. Living in a van kind of makes it easy to explore places you may not have explored for any other reason. One of the best places to do that in Texas is Big Bend National Park, and this is where a lot of van lifers head to in the winter months. Number 9, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a great place to live the van life and camp out for about 7 or 8 months a year. Then it starts getting cold and you probably want to head down to Texas or something. This one's really popular with retirees. Retirees sometimes are drawn to historic places, and Pennsylvania obviously is one of the most historic states we have. On top of that, if you're into fishing, which a lot of van life people are into, I will tell you from my experience in Pennsylvania, it is kind of hard to find an area where there isn't a lake, pond, or river, creek, whatever, that isn't within walking distance. In all the research I've done, Pennsylvania has always showed up in the top 10 for most places to camp, and they're always in the top 10 for best places to fish for van lifers. Pennsylvania has a lot of state parks that are easily accessible and free for campers. Number 8, Arizona. Now this one's obviously for people that don't like the cold weather. Arizona does have some places and it's got some mountains where it can get a little cold, but for the most part, this is a very, very warm and hot state. One guy said winter in Arizona is like spring in Michigan. Whenever I mention weather or climate in Arizona, someone always has to bring up the fact that Arizona gets snow. They do. They get some snow, but if someone from Arizona explained to someone from Minnesota how bad their snow gets, they'll laugh in your face. Now, if you're vacationing and you want to camp, you're going to go to Grand Canyon or something like that. But people living the van life show up all over this state, and for good reason. There's a lot of free campsites scattered around Arizona. Sedona, Flagstaff, Southern Arizona. Arizona is a great place for people van lifing it on a budget. Arizona is one of the biggest states when it comes to off-grid living. There's a van life festival that goes on every, I guess it's a festival, convention, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but van life and off-grid people come to Quartzsite, Arizona every February. It's like this thing where people are giving classes, showing you how to install solar panels, things like that. It's another reason that Arizona is so popular for van lifers. A lot of van lifers need their computers to work. This place gets great internet from Starlink and tons of sunshine for your solar power. Number 7, North Carolina. North Carolina is very popular because it's just a beautiful state to camp in. Got the Great Smoky Mountains and you got the Outer Bank. So you got ocean and you got mountains and you got everything in between. North Carolina is a beautiful place to live the van life or live off the grid for that matter. As a matter of fact, the Asheville area, mostly the woods around Asheville, North Carolina, are filled with hippies and people living off the grid. The hippie lifestyle and living off the grid sounds very appealing to me if it wasn't for one problem. I need a legit shower, not, taking a bath in a creek someplace. I gave that up when I left the Army. Number 6, Oregon. Oregon, like North Carolina, you got the best of all worlds. You got tons of mountains. If you want to go up there for the spring and enjoy the mountains, then head down to the lower lands for the winter, and then you can head to the coast. Oregon's another one of those states that kept showing up in the top 10 for the most places to camp. And Oregon isn't just all mountains, rain, beautiful coast. They've got the eastern section, which is rolling grass hills with plenty of sunshine. Oregon also has plenty of places to camp for free. There's parts of Oregon where you can just pull off into the woods a little bit and probably not see anyone for a couple days at least, maybe weeks, and that may become more of a thing in the future. I just read how Oregon actually lost population in 2022. They expect that trend to continue. Number 5, Nevada. Nevada does have some beautiful parts, but for the most part, Nevada is a desert state. And a majority of the state is owned by the federal government, not just military and weird places like that. They do have a lot of federal land where you can camp on, and no one's going to bother you. And if you do go there, this is the one that I mentioned in the beginning. You could live for $25 a month for 7 months a year. In Nevada, there's this thing called BLM, Bureau of Land Management, and they have different campsites throughout the western states, I think back east a little bit too, but for the most parts in the western states where you could buy these passes to camp and it equals out to about $25 a month. Now for someone that's paying $1,500 a month in some city here in the United States, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. Do van life for 3 years and have a nice down payment for a house. But yeah, it's not all just desert in Nevada. You have the mountainous area up by Reno. You also have other areas that look like the surface of Mars, and you have casinos. Number 4, Utah. Utah is another great place if you want to see some great national parks. Utah's home to 5 national parks: Capitol Reef National Park, Canyonlands National Park, Arches National Park, Bryce Canyon, and Zion National Park. If you want to camp in those things, you gotta, kind of put your name in early, make like your reservation type thing, because those fill up fast every single year. Mostly it's with tourists, not people living the van life. And if you are living the van life and you want to go hike one of these places, get there early, because during the summer and spring months, those trails get packed. Utah's another place that has an overabundance of free places to camp. Number 3, Tennessee. Tennessee is a popular state all the way around. People want to move out into the country, people want to move into the cities, and van lifers love Tennessee. It's beautiful, plenty of places to camp, and normally outside the cities, it's not like you have to go far to find a place to camp. Like Pennsylvania, they got plenty of places to fish and hunt if you want to. Tons of hiking trails, campgrounds, and the Great Smoky Mountains, which is one of the most visited national parks in the country. Tennessee's another state that's really big in off-grid living. They also have a lot of open land for sale. So if you want to park a nice trailer or whatever on some land, this might be a great place to do it. Number 2, California. California probably should be number 1. I mean, the state is huge, it's very diverse, they have so many places to stay, things to do, it's just expensive. So that's why they're not number 1 on this list. Gas is expensive here, camping can get expensive here, all kinds of fees and everything else just to camp in this state. It's kind of a pain, but it's huge, it's beautiful, and there's plenty of things to do. I would suggest California for someone living the van life that needs to be close to like the Bay Area or Los Angeles, San Diego. There's places you can camp. It's cheaper than renting a place anywhere in the state just about. It's just overpriced. You could head out to Lake Tahoe, you could camp near Yosemite, head on over to Death Valley, camp in Big Sur, which is kind of life-changing. Go to Sequoia National Forest. There's a lot of people doing this in the outskirts of the San Francisco Bay Area and Silicon Valley. It's not because these people want to live the van life, it's kind of a necessity for a lot of them, especially if you're working for a company that's in the San Francisco area. You know, that place where you got to make over $125,000 a year to even consider buying a home, or $250,000 if you want to live in a neighborhood that doesn't require bars on the windows. And in California, those are becoming harder and harder to find. All right, before we get to number 1, don't forget we have another channel called On This Day. There's a link down below. We'd love it if you went over there, watch some videos, and subscribe. All right, on to number 1. And And number 1, New Mexico. New Mexico doesn't really show up that often on positive lists. And this one, they kind of win hands down. It's beautiful, it's affordable, and that BLM, Bureau of Land Management, they have a lot of lots for that. This is another place where you could survive for 7 months a year on $25 a month rent. Sure, you got to supply your own van or camper or whatever, but for $25 a month, 7 months a year, you could live in one of these spots. You can go from different spots. Your $25 a month isn't for one spot. You can move all around the state. Let's say there's someone there you don't like living around. You could pack up your stuff and go to one 50 miles away. Now, New Mexico has some problems, but 99% of their problems are in the cities. Living off the grid, living the van life, whatever you want to do, it's going to be pretty safe in New Mexico. One thing I will suggest, almost every single person that I watch or I read about that's living the van life, they suggest having a dog. Doesn't have to be a giant dog. A dog's just a really good idea to have if you're living the van life, especially if you're a young lady, which a lot of them are. If you do decide to do this in New Mexico, everyone says you got to get a telescope. That is one of the greatest things about living the van life in New Mexico is star watching. New Mexico is also an affordable place when it comes to fuel and supplies. The cost of living in New Mexico is pretty low, but plenty of things to do. It's affordable and it's beautiful. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, and be nice to each other.